Okay, here we go. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If it seems like I'm talking fast, it's because I'm afraid that I'm going to forget parts of the dream I had last night. And I want to get as much out about it as I can. And I know it's going to take me some time to relay the info. So, yeah, that's your that's your warning that this is going to probably be long-winded. Um, Last night's dream was another cosmic style dream, and it like other dreams I've had that were similar. It was too bizarre for me to even have made it up. Like, I'm a fairly creative person, but the bizarreness of this dream even eclipses my imagination. And when I wake up, I feel like I've been in an alternate reality. Really, truly. I know how strange that sounds too, and it makes me question the solidity of this reality to some extent. So, with that said, here's the setup. The energy lately in the world, in the country, is thick, very thick and sticky. And I find myself just, or more like my emotions, you know? You have to take every day as it is. You got to live in the now because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, or, God willing, tomorrow comes. Like, hopefully reality doesn't end anytime soon. And cheers. First of the day, as my mom has always said. Yeah, but sometimes we can't help but worry about the future. We try to live in the now, but we can't help but worry about the future. So I have found the energy thick this last week. And so I awoke in the middle of the night, and I really, really wanted to get back to sleep because I didn't want to be extra tired because I had a meeting straight off in the morning that lasted for 2 hours on Zoom, work meeting, and I was like, I'm gonna need my juice, so hopefully I can get back to sleep. So I prayed, and prayer is a good way for me often to get back to sleep, and I like to start, my prayers often with. I've mentioned this visualization before, imagining myself, my essence or part of my essence, sinking down into the earth and spreading out through the earth, like right down through my home, down into the ground, into the grass and the ground, and spreading out all around my house, into the trees, into the dirt, into the water, into the plants, into the insects. And I don't know why when I ask, I usually say, please let my, help my energy, just what I said, sink down into the earth, spread out through the trees, and help me connect to God in nature, or spirit. And it often works. From time to time it doesn't work, but it often works. And if Shay is with me, and he was at that point in time, then it has an extra chance of succeeding, because when I'm touching him, it's like I'm getting some energy from him too. I feel his energy just touching him, touching him on the side, or patting him even under the chin or whatever. Immediately I feel connectivity in my third eye, and my face kind of flushes and gets warm. It feels like warmth, not physical warmth, but like a tenderness, a kindness, that I attribute to spirit, to the creator. So I'm doing my prayers, and so I start by enveloping, and asking to be enveloped in the white light of God, and for me and Shay, and the bedroom, and then the house, and then out into the street, and then the whole block, and then I start to like mentally spread into the whole city. And usually, like I said, that'll help me sleep, especially if I combine it with prayers for various people that I care about. And I did get a lot of people in last night, I was happy to say, and that also makes me feel more connected. I guess maybe it speaks to our collective, like that we really are more a part of each other than we think we are. My friend Kim Carey, who I reference often, said more recently in one of her videos that part of what we're here to learn is the experience of being separate, whereas on the other side we're much more connected, or we're really intimately connected, and even really essentially telepathic. Like you you're yourself, you're an individual, but you're also part of the whole, and it feels that way. And every kind of supernatural mystical experience I've had seems to confirm that there's pure love, like pure love there, that is life affirming. That's my little extra speaker turning off as I was listening to some YouTube videos before I came on. So anyway, so it did help me get back to sleep, and I think the fact that I did the prayers and the sort of envisioning of myself in white light, that this helped lead to the dream. So first, it's kind of like there was a preview dream and then the main dream. So the preview dream was in the style of a cartoon. It was actually seemed to be like an episode of The Simpsons. And then at times it seemed like it was real, like real people. But at times it was just purely cartoon. And I have some notes, so I may read some of them directly. Let's see. Oh yeah. I also, when I was praying before I went back to sleep, I was trying to do what Kim had recommended in one of her videos to hold vibration, like to think of everything as vibrations, and to, if we can't directly influence world events as much as we like to, sometimes if we are trying to be helpful to the whole, we can at least hold a frequency of lightness in ourselves that just raises the baseline on the planet, if that makes any sense. So that was part of my mindset too, to be part of that. I asked Spirit to make its presence strongly felt, which worked. I could feel the warmth all through my third eye and into my body. So then the preview dream, I was either like a police officer or Secret Service or FBI, and I was involved in the detail that was taking care of the president, who I will call Dump, just for fun. So, and in the dream, he, as a Simpsons character, was really kind of pathetic. His suit looked shabby, like he'd been wearing the same suit for years, ill-fitting. His tie was rumpled and too long. His personal appearance was kind of disheveled. He didn't seem so much malevolent as just sort of dumb and dim and not really aware of like anything that was really going on around him. And the premise of the dream was basically like that he was kind of an idiot that we had to keep trying to make sure that he didn't get himself killed. Because he kept doing things which were self-destructive. For example, in some part of the dream, he walked through like a shop window, and you would think, he would be cut to ribbons, right? But somehow, like, he wasn't. Like, he should have been completely severely injured or perhaps killed by all the glass, but he essentially escaped with minimal harm. And so I'm chatting with one or two other like Secret Service, FBI types and police, and we're just like, what is up with this guy? Like, we're doing everything we can to make sure he doesn't get killed, and he keeps basically almost getting killed, but not getting killed somehow. But the really comical part, let's see, yeah, the part that really cracked me up was we were standing outside of the same shop that I think where he had walked through the shop window, and his his bulletproof limousine or car was outside, and one of us was supposed to drive him. But without saying anything to anybody, he gets in the car and he just takes off. And we're watching, and I'm watching him like drive directly away from me, in front of me, like 100 yards away. And he's just driving straight, like recklessly, just straight across things in the road, like he's not paying attention to anything. And I see him hit like a the lip of a driveway or the edge of a curb or something. Yeah, the edge of a curb. And he basically dive bombs the car into a rectangular fountain that was like in a courtyard. And so the car, like kind of does a Dukes of Hazzard dive into this pool, and then it bursts into flames and explodes. And I'm thinking, wow, that could really be it. But nope, no, didn't kill him. Didn't kill him. Somehow he walked away from it. And it was the same thing. I'm talking with my colleagues, and we're just like, what is up with this guy? So I don't know exactly what that was about. My mom, when I told her, said something like, "Yeah, he really is that stupid," or something like that. But she was laughing about the fountain, about the wading pool, just with the car. That was ridiculous. And then the dream transitioned. Then it was like, since it was sort of an episode of The Simpsons, kind of, I was also aware of the audience that was watching the show. And then I was aware that I was really more or less myself in the dream. And instead of like, a Secret Service guy or whatever, or maybe I was both, and in the context of the show, I mentioned to someone else on the show that because I'm aware that I'm in the show and that I have a platform because people are watching me. So I mentioned that I have a book coming out about mystical experiences in spirit and connectivity and the creator and all this stuff. And I'm kind of lying sort of about it because I'm not lying about the contents of the book, but I'm lying that the book is about to come out because the book in the dream is actually already come out, and it's my first book, which came out more than 10 years ago, called God Laughs at Dirty Jokes. So I'm pitching that I'm going to have a book coming out, but in the dream I know that it's already come out. And I'm also aware, while people are watching the show, that they're looking me up. They're looking me up on social media. They're looking up my book. They're beginning to check me out. And what ends up happening in the context of the dream, and I know this, this is sort of, I guess, maybe a dream, a fantasy of self-importance. But in the dream, my book catches on. Whereas in reality, I don't know, 50 or 100 people maybe read my first book, and maybe that many have read my second book. Not like earth-changing numbers of people, as far as I know. I mean, as a percentage of population. But in the dream, in the cartoon, my book takes off, and the ideas that I'm pitching about, like love being the most powerful force in the universe, and ideas about like how we're all interconnected, and the value of taking care of others and being unselfish and being altruistic and being generous. It really catches on, and in fact, it catches on so much so that it actually changes the world. It actually changes the behavior of people. People start to really tune in to the fact that there is another side, that there is a God, that there is an afterlife, and they start to live differently, and the world becomes a better place. Now, that's putting a lot on my first book or either of my two books, which is more than I would like. I don't know if, say, a million people read them, if they really would change the world. I mean, I certainly wanted, when I was writing my first book, I certainly wanted to change the world, but a lot of us idealists do. And with my second book, I still had that somewhere in the back of my mind, but not as strongly. Like I was writing it for my own reasons and to try to communicate the ideas to whoever might come across them or find them interesting. So, so, but in the dream, as a result of my being on The Simpsons, as like a cartoon slash real person, the book changes the world because people came to believe in existence as a struggle between forces of light and dark, which reframed the overall perception of reality. And so defenders and light workers and protectors, who are here on the planet, they rose in importance in the population as protectors of life here and presumably elsewhere. So it was like the world was becoming more just, and it was being led by people who really had the pure intentions. As imperfect as I am, I do have good intentions. I have clean intentions. My behavior is not always up to snuff, but my heart is good. And so the thing is, though, as the world I guess you could say the vibration of the world kind of went up as a result of these ideas taking hold in society in the dream. So the world improved, but the irony was that as a result of the elevation of Earth into kind of maybe like what people call the new Earth or 5D or some more enlightened human existence where we feel more interconnected and responsible for one another. Somehow this sent like a signal out to the universe that Earth had leveled up, and naturally in an existence of light, extreme light and darkness that we exist in, at least here on Earth, it attracted I guess we'll just call them unhelpful energies from around the universe to come to like Earth to like challenge the protectors of Earth. So it attracted unfriendlies. It attracted somewhat darker energies who wanted to take on Earth's protectors in a kind of cosmic combat. So that's weird enough, right? So then, probably because I have always, when I was a kid, I really liked comic books, and I still like comic book movies and action and adventure, and I wanted to be Batman when I was like 8. I think fantasy elements pop up in my dreams often. So it turns out that when these sort of malevolent beings were attracted to Earth, I was among many people who were meant to help people, to be protectors, and we were almost like superheroes, the protectors, because we wore what almost looked like costumes. I had a couple different outfits in the rest of the dream, so this being the main dream now. My first one was kind of like a almost like a skin tight tannish suit, And then later in the dream, I had on almost what looked like a wrestling leotard, like but real wrestlers, like not WWE wrestlers, but like how they wear those like tank top, maybe I think they're unitard that they're like shorts too, and it was blue. And what ended up happening was I had to have these cosmic space battles against the people who had come to Earth to the beings who had come to Earth, supernatural beings, to cause trouble. Now that Earth was elevated, so the first batch of people of beings that came it was a group of five, and they were led by a woman who was kind of like almost like looked kind of like an attractive witch, you know. She she was meant to be alluring but deadly, and and when she came with her little crew, I realized that I had a partner in my I had a partner on my team. I had a teammate. I didn't get her name, but she basically kind of like sort of flew into the scene in her tan costume that matched the tan costume that I was initially wearing. Like a leotard, superhero leotard, and she she told me that the name of our team was the Love Trust. The Love Trust. So, if you think like a trust can be an institution, like a bank. So, we were the Love Trust, and we had the cosmic weapons that we had created. They looked kind of like nunchucks, if you've ever seen this ninja style weapon, except they were made of metal and like blue, bright blue trim, and maybe even some kind of like electronic or sci-fi energy energy ports on them, or they looked like they were kind of supercharged. They looked like they themselves contained energy. They were more than just a physical weapon, and they were multi-jointed. So it was kind of like a pole, but then it kind of had like a joint on one end and a joint on the other end, and you could swing the different parts of the weapon to. I know it sounds ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous. It's coming out of my mouth and it sounds ridiculous, but this is what I dreamt. And we could swing it as a weapon, and if you were skilled with it, you could really you could double whack somebody with both ends, but with this swinging ball, ball ends of this thing. And our opponents, I remember saying, since there were only two of us and five of them, that when we actually sort of created our weapons out of thin air, that the rules for the match would be that my partner and I would each get to have a weapon in each hand. So we would each have two weapons. And our opponents would each have to have a single weapon. So it was basically 2-on-5, but 4 weapons against 5. And then we kind of flew around each other and fought. And the witchy woman, I was tangling with her, and it was just an energetic battle. And I was also aware that we did have kind of like white light shielding around us from our own thoughts. That much like what I had prayed for before I went to bed, to be sort of encased in protective white light, that was a real thing, that you could have a shield around you that was like noble and made of love and light, and that this would be a true help in a dangerous situation. And when I was kind of twirling around fighting the woman and the witchy woman, and I realized, well, a few things. Like a video game, of course, I could see that their group of five, had like an energy bar on this. I could see it with my eyeball, but like as if it were on a screen. And as we fought, their energy bar went down, like in a video game, and we had one too. But I didn't really notice ours. I was just concentrating on theirs, trying to get their energy bar to zero so that we could win the fight. And I was struggling with witchy women, and I felt confident that my partner and I were going to win the love trust. I felt confident that the love trust was going to win. But at the same time, I was aware that the struggle was existential and that we could also lose. That everything was on the line and it wasn't really an option to lose. But that it was a possibility. But we didn't lose. We won. And I don't know what happened to them. Like, I don't know if I didn't see them disappear or die or anything like that. Maybe they just kind of got vanquished and banished as we defeated them. But naturally, this in turn, yes, there's more. 26 minutes. This attracted more malevolent beings of higher power, I guess you could say, of greater power, to challenge us. So it was like the one challenge only leads to the next challenge, and you're working your way up the ladder of opponents. And I continued to have the same feeling that, like, I was confident that we could win, but I was always aware that we might not. And excuse me, let me check my notes here for a second. There was one part in the dream. Oh, right. Well, I remember at some point we switched from our tan costumes to our blue costumes that were more like the wrestler outfits, but very colorful and futuristic. And I think our opponents were in mostly dark colors and red, the first group at least. And there was a point at which we had defeated a couple of opponents that I started to get like downloads of information, like psychically, like it was like the undergirding or the construction of reality was being revealed to me as we continued to defend Earth. And we weren't just defending Earth, we were actually defending reality. And at some point, someone in the dream said something like that we were defending reality 1.4. Meaning that this was the fourth version of reality. Like that there had been three before it that had been destroyed. And that this fourth one was the next showdown. And that there was a chance that we would lose, and then I guess, I don't know what would happen. There'd be reality 1.5, but I just thought that detail was so funny and specific that I wanted to remember it. So we're getting into the home stretch now in the dream. I'll tell you about the ending in just a second, but first I'm going to back up and talk about the shields of energy around our bodies. So this is what I prayed for before I went back to sleep. And in the dream, and I feel to some degree in this reality, that the shields are real. I don't know if we, and I don't mean like literally like they would protect you from a bullet, but I do think the energy that we carry around us influences other people around us, and especially maybe those who don't always wish us well. And the example I'll use for that is something that just came to mind from about 6 or 7 years ago at my old job, when the place that I worked at hired a new business manager, and I didn't care for him at all. I thought he had a really, really bad attitude. He was lazy. He was combative. And I thought, why on earth would you pick this guy? And at the same time, though, I thought to myself, well, I got to try to get along with this guy. So I remember having a meeting in his office, and we were discussing some aspects of how the business ran. And we were disagreeing politely. But we were disagreeing. I didn't agree with his ideas at all. And the office was small. We were across a desk from each other, and he was seated about 3 or 4 feet from a wall which had a window above it. The longer we talked, which was maybe a half an hour or 45 minutes, over the course of the meeting, he actually had retreated physically in his chair all the way to the wall. And I realized later, like, that I wasn't trying to push him to the wall mentally or psychically or psychologically, but somehow maybe just my conviction or my energy seemed to physically repel him. And so I have to believe that we do have like kind of auras. If nothing more than auras, our energy is felt even within proximity, if not necessarily direct touch. And so this concept was played out in the dream because I realized that the shields were real and that your shield sort of matched your own resonance and energy. So if the more noble and good you are, or were in the dream, your shield would be stronger. And this played out in the dream as it was right at the beginning when I was just about to start getting involved with being an Earth Protector superhero type, and a group of not friendly people came up to me as I was sitting outside somewhere against like a wall of a building, and I had my legs stretched out in front of me, and they were crossed, and they were straight out. Well, crossed but straight. And I was aware I had my shield, and when these people came up to me, I was really aware that I was kind of like in the bubble. And they were sort of trying to intimidate me, even though I was sitting down and they were all standing up. I didn't feel intimidated at all. And I don't know if someone actually physically tried to sort of hit at me or more, psychically, but I could feel that they were trying to attack me, and I could feel them hitting the shield, and they couldn't get through it. And they were getting frustrated. And a big guy was standing over me. He was standing over my feet, and he said, well, your shield, whatever, you might think your shield, my candle's getting low, might totally protect you, but you got your feet sticking out, so your feet aren't covered by the shield. But he was wrong, because the shield just bubbled up around my legs. So when he tried to whatever, mess with my legs or kick me, it didn't work. So it's just that's how stupid he was too. And I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. This is great that this works. Let me see if there's any further note on that. Yeah. So when your heart is pure, it helps protect you. I could feel the protective shield around me, even down through my outstretched legs as I sat. You can make them around you and ask Spirit to help you in the dream and in this reality, I believe. So after my partner and I had dispatched the various malevolent entities, cosmic entities who had come to do battle with us, kind of like in outer space, above Earth, I guess. There was a sort of final combatant who came to Earth, and he was in red, and I was in blue in those leotards, in the wrestling leotards. And for some reason, my partner wasn't with me for this one, but I don't know why. And this guy was supposed to be, the baddest of them all. And I don't remember much about the fight with him. But what I do remember is that it kind of went to like either a standstill or I may have even lost. But then what happened completely surprised me because somehow, even though he was supposed to be a bad guy, the baddest of the bad, he had a funny respect for my, I guess my, I don't know, my fight or my courage or my whatever. He had a strange respect for me. And so at the end of the fight, which was either a draw or I lost, he basically offered a partnership in the creation of something new. And like I remember like we both had our arms in the air, like our I think our hands were we were holding each other's hands in the middle, and then our other arms were raised like this was like the great truce. And I remember thinking, whatever comes after this is going to be completely different. And because this guy wanted to partner with me after, he was their champion, and I guess I was one of the champions here. So I had this thought later that in a weird way, and I don't know where I read this before. I don't know if I really should check this before I came on, but I can't stop now because I'm this far. It might be an idea in the Torah, but don't quote me on that, where there's a concept that the devil, or the representative of darkness, the dark one, is necessary as a challenger in order for there to be challenges to rise to and above, or to be defeated by, and to learn lessons. Like, you can't really learn anything in a place where everything is just good. And so, in a weird way, the devil is like a disguise for God. It's somehow another face of God, because everything comes from God. And so you think you're fighting your greatest enemy, but it's actually your friend God in disguise. And I know that sounds very bizarre, and especially in the times we're living in, because there's so much destruction. It sounds too fanciful. It sounds too whimsical to be true. But it is true that, my belief system is that everything came from God, a creator of some kind, or a collective, or whatever, a creator or creators, and that free will is part of the deal. Every soul that's created by the great creator is given the freedom to choose its path. And so inevitably, some of the creations of the creator are going to rebel and turn against the creator. The rise of an opposition to the creator is inevitable, because some souls are going to feel oppressed, even if they're not. Their perception is that they're oppressed, or that they're not free. But if we didn't have free will, then we would be slaves. And so that's always the conundrum of free will. There has to be free will in order for us to grow and have any lessons. So I guess maybe I'm arguing that's kind of why the world, to some extent, why the world is like it is, because everybody gets to choose how they're going to be. And we come to our lessons, or our understanding about what the world is on different timetables. Everybody comes along at a different timetable. The world doesn't come along at the time we want it to come along. And it may not ever resemble what we think is the perfect world in our lifetime. And then the story continues without us, or at least we're watching more of it from the other side, I guess. So now I'm getting a little off track, and might feel I might be rambling even a little bit more than usual. But I just I was very curious about this idea of this last challenger somehow possibly being a friend in disguise. Except that I guess if I had lost, I mean, it could have been the end of things, but somehow it wasn't. So that's why I thought of that idea of like somehow maybe God is still behind all of it, even the darkness somehow. But I'm not 100% convinced of what I'm even suggesting. So I definitely would love to have feedback on that. But that was the essence of the dream. So the dream is what it is, and however I might interpret it or anyone else might interpret it, is, obviously very individualized. But in the dream, that's how it went down. It didn't turn out to be the end of everything. It turned out to be the new beginning of who knows what. And like I said, when I woke up, I was just like, wow, I was so far away. That was crazy. And I think that's most of my notes about it. Oh, no, I left out a very important part. Very important part. During that final battle with the Challenger in red, um, somewhere along the line, someone gave me the history, a book of the history of all events on Earth. Everything that's ever happened, everything that is happening, and everything that will happen. All of the future in one book. And it kind of came with a download, like another kind of knowing of like, whoa, of the grandiosity of the scale of the kind of scope and plan for Earth. And I immediately skipped to the second last page of the book, but not the last page. And I never looked at the last page of the book. But on the second last page, I may have seen an image of the conflict with this other being, like, or some mention of it. And then I could see from the images on the page that the future was Asian. The future of Earth was Asian based. Asian language, Asian culture being dominant from the figures in the book of All History on Earth at near the very end. And the man himself, I think, was Asian. And I've mentioned in other videos that I have this strong feeling that I have been of Asian descent in other lives, maybe like a Buddhist or something like that. And also because the spirit guide who is said to have helped me write my second book is of Asian descent. And I feel that my lineage may run through Eastern belief systems in other incarnations. And I also kind of believe that I've lived on other planets too, but that's for another day. But I just always have this kind of feeling that somewhere I'm actually Asian, which is a funny thing to say as an Italian, because I feel very Italian too. But yeah, and there might have even been a flag in the dream. There was like a figure, like maybe an Asian male or an Asian child, on that second last page, and I can't say if the flag was for China, but it may have had red on it. Not sure. It wasn't the flag for Japan, I don't think. Maybe it was unspecified. Unspecified Asian future. So make of that what you will, too. But there is a possibility with the trajectory that our country's on right now that we may slide out of the position of global dominance in this century, and it may in fact be a Chinese-led world by the end of this century, probably past the lifetimes of everyone watching this. So that isn't necessarily the end of history on Earth, because that could be hundreds of thousands more years before the planet becomes uninhabitable as the sun expands. But yeah, I don't know. Feedback on that is welcome, but I also thought it was kind of fun and interesting that I'm glad I didn't look at the very last page. I don't think I was supposed to see the very last page. Maybe no one is supposed to see the very last page. But I saw the second last page. So that's what I got. 45 minutes. Woo! I can talk, huh? I knew it was going to take a long time to get through it. I hope it wasn't too tangential. It was definitely a crazy dream. So realistic, yet so fantastical at the same time. And I'm tired, like, now relating it, because also I went for a swim today. But I was like, if I don't do it tonight, and I don't do it in the next couple of nights, it's going to start to fade. And so I wanted to do it, and I hope you enjoyed it. And, yeah. That's why this video is called The Love Trust. All right. Feedback, always welcome to my oddball dream life. And I hope your dream life is great and the rest of your life too. Okay, take care. See you soon.